couple of days ago I had another psilocybin simulancita excursion, and I took 5 grams, which is a high dose, but the mushrooms were old. They were, let's say, 3 years old, and some of you will remember that about a month ago I took 2 grams and had very little effect. So I knew that they weren't as potent as they were when they're fresh. 5 grams would blow your socks off fresh, but these weren't that potent. But I still had a fair trip for about 3 hours, and I went to a beautiful place, and some of you will remember it's the quarry, and there's a promontory there, and you stand on the promontory and you can look out over the whole landscape, and it's given to all different sorts of wild flower this time of year. And there's about 50 old twisted oak trees on a flank of that promontory, and so I like to be amongst those and go up there. It's a beautiful feeling, and invariably there isn't anybody there, not too many, and so I went there and waited for the trip to begin. And so I took my shirt off, I laid down in the tall grass and the wildflowers, and I looked out over the landscape, and I was gazing up at the big fluffy white clouds like there are today, and nothing happened. And this was over the duration of about an hour, and I'm like, whoa, well, if these were coming on, they would have come on fresh. Within 15 minutes you start to feel it. Most certainly you'd be fully in it within half an hour. If they're not that potent, then maybe half an hour, 3/4 of an hour before you start to notice something. But I never noticed anything. It seemed like about an hour, and so I thought, oh well, I suppose I'll work my way back towards my bike. And on the journey down, I started to slip into the dream, and I went, wow, well, there's a thing. And for those who don't know what entheogens are like, particularly mushrooms, there are varying effects and strengths, but on, let's say, a reasonable, mild, I think this 5 grams would have equated to about 2.5–3 grams under normal circumstances if they were fresh, and 3 grams is pretty decent. You see stuff and you feel stuff, which I'm going to be speaking about. So as I was walking along and I was grazing on blackberries, and I was examining all the trees and all the plants and everything, as I always do, and I noticed that I was slipping more and more into the psilocybin world, and in my instant it's an accentuation of the natural world, because I'm very naturalistic consciously, and so the entheogens will emphasize your natural propensity, and so I was very much into that, and I was looking at the clouds, and they have a presence. You see, all the natural world and the clouds, they have a spiritual presence. It's like everything, you know, is conscious, everything is sentient, and everything has a knowing, and they're living. And so I looked at the clouds and I started to see some manifestations, but nothing too extraordinary at that time. And so I continued to walk for about half an hour, and as I was going up a long incline towards another promontory, in front of me was a huge group of big, beautiful, fluffy white clouds. And in one of those clouds there was like a warrior of some description, and I can't even say what the warrior was like, other than it wasn't of this world, and it was clad in some sort of a warrior helmet, and the creature was humanoid, but it wasn't human, and it had, you know, arms and body very much human-like, but its head wasn't human, and I couldn't see the features so clear on this particular instant. And I got the impression, because its arm was over like this, that it was all holding a shield and maybe a spear. Now, when you see things like this, people, it is very, very perplexing, incredible and wonderful, and not in the slightest intimidating or scary, because they're never looking directly at you. They're not about intimidating you, they're just there. And on previous occasions I've seen absolutely categorically, explicitly clear, like Socrates reclining in the clouds, which could very well be God, or the idea of God, you know. Then I've seen like Viking warriors lurching through the sky with muscles of iron and long flowing beards and hair, and as big as a double-decker bus in the sky, and you go, wow. And then around this massive man, you know, these men, they're always wearing like togas, and they have muscles like Garth. They appear to be about 70 years old, but as powerful as any 30-year-old, you know, as a human. And they are always like that, very much like the Greek god depictions. So in my estimation, I think it would be very, very reasonable to state that this is where the Greek mythology came from. This is where, probably doubtless, much mythology comes from, with beings and all different sorts of creatures. I've spoken about many of these varying creatures that I've seen before. And when you read the Bible, the Old Testament, well, it's full of scenarios that you could very readily have whilst on entheogens. And I am positive that this is where the notion of God in the sky, the clouds, comes from, and God is a man, because it's you know, very often they are men, they are very Socratean warriors, and they're all 65, 70 years old, and just bursting with veins and muscles. So I saw that, and there's an aura of being in Jeepers Creepers, I'm on an ant's nest, that's why I'll keep there's an aura of being in another world, and the other world is your consciousness and the other world. And you know that nobody on the earth is sharing your world. I mean, this, under normal circumstances, is always the case, but we're not aware of it, because we always think that other people are sharing our world, because we've grown up in this world and we've got a natural assumption that everything we see and do is very similar to what everybody else sees and does, when in actual fact there are certain similes, but there's an enormous amount of difference between what we perceive. And I've spoken about this too many times. And if you're walking along the beach, you could never assume that you and whoever you're walking with is walking along the same beach, because what your partner or friend is seeing, broadly speaking, is the same beach, but it's very, very different, because their perception hones in to different things. They'll see the colours different, they'll see the light different, they will focus on different things like maybe shells or sand or the ocean or the light flickering, or maybe none of those things. They're two in the head. But we're never living in the same world, people. That's an assumption that is so completely erroneous. But when you take entheogens, let's say psilocybin or cubensis, then you become greatly more aware of your own world. So you are... Hello, squirrel, what's wrong? Oh, we've just seen a cat. That's their stress signal. There's this ginger cat that just casually walked past, and so they all start crying to each other. But we don't have to worry about Providence today, because Providence is indoors. I see her from time to time just looking out, watching the world go by, but I'm pretty sure she's with child now, and so it's going to be very exciting to see how she manages that, and when the little babies start coming to the door and looking out, and I've got to, you know, give her the opportunity to move into a bigger home, so I'm going to do that very soon. But getting back to this trip, we're in our own world, and we absolutely know that nobody is sharing our world. We are sharing the cosmos with our consciousness, and all the trees and the wildlife and everything is in our world, and it's so profound. And you know that every single tree and plant is sentient and conscious to more or lesser degrees. And so, having had that experience, what happens is I kept going like goose pimply all over, feeling a chill, which is one of the side effects of mushrooms. Can tend to make you feel very cold. This is why they're not really great to take in cold weather, because you've got to keep really wrapped up and you're just shivering at your core. But it was a beautiful day like it is today, and so I was just going all goose pimply all over and feeling tired, and you know, walking around, and I thought, oh no, I don't know, I think I'm just going to go and get on my bike and cycle around, and at least I'm doing something, I'm keeping active, and I can watch the clouds and the trees and all that sort of thing, and it'd be less exhausting than walking. And so I did that, and I got on my bike and went through the countryside, and I'm looking at all the trees and the clouds, and I'm starting to see imagery and things like that, nothing profound. And then about halfway round, there's a beautiful old church like this one here, which I always frequent, and it's very similar to this in its age and the layout of the graves and everything like that. So I went into that graveyard, and in that graveyard there was a huge fir tree, and the fir tree, I think it's something oh, they've got these huge baubles on them. I can't think of the name at this moment in time, and they've got huge branches and a massive tree. And I looked at the tree, and the tree was kind of like it was superimposed. It was standing majestically, and it was sentient and glorious, and I just I had to keep looking at it and then looking away to get a comparison of how other things looked, and then look back at that massive majestic tree, and it just stood out on its own as a huge sentient being. And what I've found is when I'm on mushrooms, the larger the tree, the more majestic. The older the tree, the more magical. So if you've got old oaks like 500 years old, or you've got like redwoods, or something similar like that, then they may be 200 years old, 300 years old. They are 150 feet high or something like this. Massive trees. Maybe 120 feet, something like that. But there's something about them that is very real. And so, coming back now, when I'm always saying, can you see the ecstasy dripping from these trees and dripping from these leaves and all these different sorts of things? Well, what I will say about mushrooms, from the very first time you take them, you will never be the same again, because you'll always look at the world like you did when you're on these shrooms. Not as profound, because when you take a high dose, then the bark is throbbing and breathing, and you can come up close to the bark, and all the fissures, they look like dinosaur skin, and you can see the actual living beast expanding and contracting, just like you would if you was looking at a dinosaur. And not only do they expand, but they're kind of moving, or like this at the same time. And then you'll see all different sorts of faces and creatures in the bark and branches, which you don't see anything like as profound on a lower dose. And so when I'm walking around now, I can see, if I see trees with eyes in or funny configurations, then I instantly go into that psilocybin space. Two cats, one chasing the other. And yeah, you go into that space, and let's say you're always at the bare minimum 10% in a mushroom trip, because there's a residue and a remnant of how you see the trees, and that now is how you see the world. That's how I see the clouds. I feel it. It has never gone away. Once you've had your cherry popped by mushrooms, then you are captivated, never ever to be the same again. And fortunately, it's a beautiful captivation, because it just lets you know that the world is conscious, and everything around you is at the very least sentient, with varying grades of consciousness. And like I say, the older the tree, the bigger the tree, the more conscious they are. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it? And when I've been into old forestry, then wow, there's an ancient aura of wise old tree creatures which talk to you. And you can go into other forestation, like fir trees or pine trees, and there's a different aura again, only it isn't as majestic, it isn't as wise, but you certainly feel the energy, and those trees, they want to feel your energy. And in other videos I've spoken about being lured into woodland enclosures and having to go deep in them, and the trees tangibly, physically feeding on my libido, my sexual energy. I mean, Sigmund Freud maintained that our energy is all sexual. Everything about our energy, the libido, is sexual energy. And so the trees feed on that. They need to have it. And by the way, you know, all this is written in my book that not many of you seem too keen on purchasing. The book has amazing stories in it, and not only my wisdom, but ancient wisdom. It really is an awesome book. And if you go onto Amazon, you can see that there's 10 reviews so far, and 9 of them are 5-star, and 1 of them is a 2-star. And the one that's a 2-star is one lady that became upset with me in the comments, and I didn't pull any punches. I just let her have it. She's doing a lot of projection, so she gave a 2-star rating and stated that it was high on psychedelic experiences and low on wisdom. Well, if she knew anything about psychedelics, then she would know that psychedelics are wisdom. And this is the thing, you see, when you've got people that think that the Bible's true, you know, Christians or Muslims, when they haven't taken entheogens, they've got no idea what they're speaking about. When you take entheogens, ladies and gentlemen, you enter into the spiritual domain, and you realize that this cosmos is entirely spiritual. We only see the tiniest slither of light spectrum. We only hear the tiniest audio. We only feel a very limited amount. And so can you imagine the vastness of the cosmos? There are all different sorts of worlds here, vibrating at a different frequency, so they don't appear to be solid like this frequency. If you can picture a graphic equalizer with, you know, 0 to 1000 frequency, let's say, well, we're in one very, very hair thickness slither of frequency where the world appears to be physical matter to us. But we can go out in the astral, we can have psychedelic experiences, we can enter into these non-physical realms very, very easily. Now, I'll just this book, this is a twin. There's 2 volumes of this, Madame Blavatsky, and absolutely fascinating. She studied spiritualism and religions and philosophies from all over the world, and reputedly she was channeling, having masters of bygone times dictate to her what she should write. And it is said that she wrote at least 4 of these. There's a double one like this, and then there's 2 called The Secret Doctrine. And so both books constitute like 25,000 pages. 25,000 pages? No, not 3,000 pages, let's say 3,000 pages. And she was a prolific writer in news articles and letters and all different sorts of stuff, incessant. She just used to write from dawn till dusk, you know, with an old ink quill, dipping it in the ink pot and scratching it on paper. That's how she was writing in 1875. And so these books are absolutely superb if you want to really get into all the different sorts of ancient mysticisms and spirituality that has long been suppressed by the Catholic Church and modern day religions. You know, the amount of people that were burned to the stake for speaking about such stuff, and God forbid get caught with anything written down. You know, the Catholics, they burnt hundreds of thousands of supposed witches and wizards and devils and all this sort of stuff. Oh my God, when you read books like this and The Secret Doctrine, you'll see in the highest clarity the stupidness of the human being and the evil of those who want to have power via their particular brand of religion or spirituality. And that's why I find books like this so fascinating, because she is speaking from a place where very few people have ever spoken from, relatively, and channeling from masters and writing it all down, and the extent of it, the depth of it. If she'd have copied it from books, she would have needed to have read thousands of books in all different sorts of languages from all over the world. But as it is, she was Russian, she travelled to Tibet and South America and North America and many places around the world. And this was in the 1800s, people. And she was a woman, and she did this mostly alone. So anyway, I've digressed into a few things here, but what I can say is, for those of you that have taken reasonable amounts of entheogens, then I wonder if you could tell me whether you feel like I do, or whether you seem to feel or intuit something different, because obviously we're all different, and our innate personality and propensity is going to be doing a lot of projecting. And so because of my connection to the natural world, then I'm very deeply in that when I take these entheogens. Whereas an old friend I used to partake in entheogens with, he would be all cerebral. It would be all going on in his head, and he'd be fighting ghosts and spirits and of dead ancestors, usually his parents and his brother and things like that, and he'd just be seeing very bizarre things in his head. But he was one of these that can actually see visions in his head, where I'm an aphantasiac. I can't see visions in my head. When I close my eyes, I don't see anything, but I dream often in colour, and I've had the most amazing supernatural experiences where I've seen absolutely super duper technicolor. And when I take entheogens, I close my eyes, then I get a fantastic display of colour. It's just that under normal circumstances, under normal consciousness, I don't see anything. I'm more intuitive, I'm more, I suppose, visceral. I'm more tactile. I see a lot more than anybody I've ever been around with. Whenever I'm walking anywhere, I'm seeing such a massive amount more, and I'm always trying to extract information, whom I'm with, what they are seeing, what they're feeling, where is their consciousness. And I've always discerned that it's very narrow compared to mine, and I can't help thinking that large amounts of entheogens is responsible for this. Because, and of course 15 years meditating, daily meditation over a long period like that, coupled with 200 or 300 psychedelic experiences, then the consciousness is open, people. And that's why I see this world as heaven. It's the most incredible, amazing place, because my consciousness is out in it. The world isn't in my consciousness. It's not all going on in my head. It's not, maybe this monologue or dialogue or the pictures that people see. It's all very cerebral, and they don't seem to have a great awareness about the world around them. And they would never just marvel at, you see how those branches are swaying very gently, and the leaves are very fast. Well, if you look over onto that tree, then the branch is swaying faster, but the leaves are slower. So that's a direct contrast. Isn't that unusual? Isn't that funny? And look how the light is flickering from those, whereby there's a different hue and a different colour coming from, and all these sorts of things. People don't see that. They don't go there. Do you go there? Do any of you go there? Put something down in the comments. Are you awake? Are you spiritually connected? How many times have you done some entheogens? DMT or ayahuasca or psilocybin. They're all DMT, by the way. They're just different potencies, and some last much longer and some are much shorter. So I've got some DMT on the way, and I'm going to be taking that in all of my favourite places, one of them being here, so you'll be privy to those stories when they happen. And in relation to mushrooms, I thought during the last excursion that probably I wouldn't take any more again, at least for a very long time, because I much prefer DMT, because it's vastly more potent for a much shorter period. So you'll go into it for 10 minutes and your consciousness will be gone, where your egoic consciousness still remains when you take in psilocybin, unless, I don't know, some people say that they go unconscious on it, but I never have. Even with like 4.5 grams, I'm all very, very alert and I know what's going on, and I never do it lying down with the closed eyes. I'm always doing it in nature. But now I think, having done that so many times, then I don't feel as if I want to do that. I don't like the longevity of it. I like to be in and out. I mean, 1 hour would be fine. A very profound 1 hour trip, great. But, you know, if you've got, like, on a decent dose, you've got 6 hours, you get tired, you get exhausted. I'm telling you, people, there's only so much walking around you can do, and you know, when you close your eyes and you've got this massive influx of different shapes and patterns, like a kaleidoscope, an explosion, it drives you insane. And then of course you've got all different sorts of thoughts going on inside your head. In the early days they used to give me lessons how to live my life and the sort of person to be, but now when I experienced the mushrooms 2 days ago, I never had any messages, because I appear to have got it all. I know how to live my life. I know the things to do. I know the things I shouldn't do, and I'm pretty well doing all what I should and not doing what I shouldn't do. And so the only thing that the mushrooms had for me then was to show me the beautiful natural world. And before I went into the trip, by the way, I said, by the way, I just want to see how beautiful the natural world is. I don't want any big talking to by Yahweh or anybody like that. The last time I took 4.5 grams, I had 3 hours talking to by Jehovah. And you know, of course, overall it was a great experience, but at the time it wasn't, because I was just getting a bollocking for 3 hours because of my resistance to accept cosmic love. But now I'm much more open to that, and so the mushrooms never told me that. It's kind of like, oh, he's got it now. And so yeah, there you have it, people. So I'll just finish off with this, because I did make a video the other day about this, but I didn't put it up because I went on too many different tangents and all different sorts of stuff. But what I will say is that when you can empty your mind, and if you meditate, meditation, people, will take you into the bliss. It will calm your mind, and it will prevent the mind from always keeping you focused inside your head with thoughts, or this thought, that thought, other thoughts. How many of us just got incessant thoughts? But when you learn how to just to put the thoughts aside, then, like me, you will sit here just for an hour or two, and you'll be barely thinking anything. And if you do think anything, then the thoughts won't be intrusive, and you'll just let them go, and you'll just be in some sort of a mushroom trip whereby you are with the majesty of the world. And so this is why I don't need psilocybin anymore, because I'm in the majesty of the world every single day. I see to a lesser degree what the mushrooms show me on large doses, but the large doses aren't even as good as DMT. DMT just goes, have it, and then the whole world is changed. Like for 5 or 10 minutes you're in a cartoon world and it's absolutely credible. Every cloud is a creature and it's like, wow, but you don't have any ego there, so you can't even be remotely afraid or concerned about anything, because you're just in DMT world, you're in cosmic consciousness world. And then slowly your ego will start to come back online and everything will fade, and then you'll be back in the glory, the afterglow of the DMT, which lasts a good hour or 2 hours. Particularly on a sunny day, you're filled with well-being, and I personally feel 15 years younger, and just every vessel and muscle in my body is superbly perfect, and the world about me, and every flower, every blade of grass, every sparkle of life from the water, incredible, absolutely incredible. So when people wrote about heaven, well, I'm pretty sure that they saw some of this. And if that's where they reckon they went when they became spirits, then it's an incredible place. But from what I've read about heaven in the Bible, it doesn't do anything any justice. It is so mundane, it's so boring, nobody could even get their heads around what that could possibly be like, because they're never intended to explain what heaven's like. And this is the thing with the Bible, there is so much which isn't said, but in books like this one here, it all gets said. And so if you really want to know what life is about, what you're about, toss that Bible into the trash can and pick up these books, and these will take you there, people. And she explains how the whole of the Bible is plagiarized. There isn't a single bit of truth in one single word of it. You know, there was no Son of God, and you know, there is one God, and God's everything, God's the cosmos. And so that's why I'm very much into this, because it's very much well, what do they call it? Monism. It's Spinoza God. There's no Yahweh, there's no Jehovah, there's no Allah, there's none of those idiots that want to tell you this and tell you that and bully you here and bully you there. No, there's none of that bullshit. There's just pure cosmic consciousness and ecstasy. But there are devils and angels, there is evil and love and benevolence. It's all going on, of course it is, but they aren't named like the fiction of the devil and Yahweh and all those sorts of things. Anyway, people, gonna read that book and enjoy being in the Garden of Eden, and so if you feel that you've got anything to say, if you've experienced any of these things I've been speaking about, then I might want to put a few words down, huh?